Here.
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 Here. You're just out of this. Okay, so did everyone get a chance to read the minutes? Did you all be able to approve or
So.
would you like to?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Yes, okay. Do we have, any changes or additions to the agenda?
No.
We go to Al first. Okay, just a minute. Okay, then we will have to welcome back Scott.
Yay, Scott. We missed you. Returning.
Returning. Okay. Update on the cross-street concerns.
I saw this, I just assumed that we're just going to keep that until that on the agenda until it is completely resolved. Our striping weather has been pretty challenging with regard to our ability to get any striping done.
Now, wait a minute, we had 2 really good days. And lives here.
We did do some paving there though, so we were able to pave that little spot that we said we were going to pave. And I guess the other thing that happened was I actually had a conversation with Tony about the parking on at 221 Malala, because that seems to be there was some questions about why the parking was as bad as it was there. Did they count the on-street parking? And he sent me something today, and I haven't really had a chance to review it. So if I could defer, the short of it was that the parking standards were more rigid now than they were when, they were more rigid when they developed 221 Malala than they are now. Now they count on-street parking as part of your parking requirement. When that building redeveloped, it wasn't required, so the on-street parking wasn't counted. But having said that, he sent me the staff report and the traffic parking sections of, I don't know, several pages long. I just didn't have a chance to get to it. But so there will be an answer about how the parking number came to be for 221 Malala. But he said in order to figure out why they're exceeding that number would require, an on-site parking study of some sort. And I don't know that will necessarily happen. But the fix that we came up with for that is still in the works, it's still planned. As you know, we use the county to do our striping. So my first striping project that we've got is South End Road, fixing that little turn lane at Lawton, and the second one is Pearl. So hopefully we'll get those done.
It's kind of interesting that it seems that somewhere or another, what planning ought to do a recap once a project is up and running to see whether their criteria they use work. Because, the other case in point, which is a recent development, is they were found that.
Yeah.
And the parking there is horrible. That's a brand new shopping center.
That's not the Settlers Corner? No. Was the point?
Some of them are downtown.
Yes.
Very nice.
With limited parking. No, I hear you. That is one of the locations that also, yeah, it seems like they're using the church parking lot after.
Yes. Yes.
To me, like they're trying to use those planning rules to get people out of their cars, but that doesn't necessarily do it. And so The other thing that Tony said about this whole issue was, you know, if that boulevard was wider and had a little more shy distance from the parked vehicles, then we'd be dealing with more speeding complaints, and there is some truth to that. So they look at it as traffic, you know, some traffic calming measure in the form of parked vehicles. I think that's an afterthought, but he's right. You know, if we open these when we open these boulevards up with wider travel lanes and better paving, and all of a sudden then the complaints go from this is too narrow and this is too rough to vehicles driving too fast.
It's not very long to find it.
Right.
You have to be trying to speed.
The people will.
Well, they still will. So that's Pearl, and we'll keep working on that one.
Okay, the regional transportation plan. There's another plan that has to get finished, and that's called the TSE.
And Nancy Koshar wanted us to relay to you. This is kind of a carryover from last month, where there is a draft regional transportation system plan. She's on it in the website address if you wanted to look at it some more. And Nancy Walters had some comments, and at that time she asked Nancy Walters to email her comments. She hasn't gotten those from her yet, but she went ahead and submitted some information. And one thing she did say was that a note. This is an email, and she didn't really want. She said it would be really difficult for you to kind of work through without actually converting it to the document. But she suggested that I just pass this around. And she has submitted her comments, and then she also submitted a comment that our TAC has concerns regarding the tables, and that our regional trail spending is very low compared to the other categories, roads, bridges, and highways. And so, if you want to pass this later on, I just want to review it. She thought she did a really good job of gathering all the comments, and so if Nancy lied, then I'll be like, I'm sorry, Nancy Walters, if she has any more concerns, I'll be ready that she's in this room.
Okay.
Very good. Downtown parking committee.
I didn't get a response from staff on today, but I did hear a sense that staff is kind of waiting for implementation of the parking plan for a traffic study that we're having done downtown, the possibility of traffic, because that will impact parking. In fact, some of the parking lot may have, we will reduce some of the parking, it will have to become parallel parking as opposed to the diagonal parking, where there's a hidden into the two directional lanes. So I think probably, I'd like us to keep this on the agenda, and I keep raising the issue just to make, I don't want it to be another study that we find on the which happens too often. And so I will really continue to push for implementation, but I can understand that, and also, we've requested money for the sidewalk traffic. Requested money through work situation with Representative Schrader. Congressman Schrader.
Pork.
Huh?
Pork.
That's what they call it, is pork. They're all, I guess everybody has an opportunity to put something for their district, even as to the budget process happens in Congress. So this has been something that Oregon City has submitted as a potential for doing that. And then I believe Nancy Koshar is also is working with Lord Purdy to, in addition to that, either to replace it or supplement it. Apply for some kind of a grant that we've never gotten from the Oregon Department of all that stuff kind of ties together. Because, obviously, if you're going to do sidewalks, you maybe don't want to redo your parking until you've lined curbs and sidewalks. So, we're kind of sitting there saying, we want something to happen, but we understand that it's better if it all kind of blends together instead of doing one thing and then have to undo it in order to do the next thing. So, does that all make sense?
Yes.
So remind me, are we supporting two-way traffic down on Main Street? Because quite frankly, some of us in this room have never heard of this two-way traffic.
We're waiting for the study to come down, which will make recommendations pro or con. Almost 100% of the cities across Main Streets across the U.S. that have returned to the traffic have seen significant improvement. One-way traffic has been a killer. So that's one of the reasons that we asked ODOT funded this study as a part of the bridge closure fund to try to enhance our retail efforts downtown as one tool that they can give some money to help. So we're going to wait and see what the consultant says, but everything we read says that right now we've got Railroad Street, which is like a freeway. Nobody sees any of the retail. They just whiz right by at very high speed. So it makes sense that if it can go back to two-way, that would be a benefit to what we're trying to do.
Don, I'm not sure I know, and I'm speaking like a committee member and probably shouldn't, but what is holding it up? I mean, it's not staff, right?
There's a question of ODOT funding, and between ODOT and consultants. You've been asking that question.
Funding of the study or funding of the?
Funding of the consultant's fee for doing the study.
Oh.
And so now we're being told that in August we're supposed to have results. For a long time, every time we were trying to be in contact, there was some question of there was an issue between ODOT and the consultant that we weren't party to. That's the story of that thing.
Oh, more liquor. One rail to Oregon City.
So that's mine. Let me just finish my note here. And again, I haven't been doing this staffing this committee for long, and so when that conversation came up last month, I was a little confused about what it was that we were being asked to do. So Nancy and I got together last week, and she wasn't exactly sure either what the plan should be. So I was hoping we could just talk about that a little bit more before I go cruising down a path of in the direction you're maybe not interested in. But it seems to me like what we're wanting to do is let TriMet and maybe Metro know that we're supportive of rail coming into Oregon City. I'm not sure how many routes there or possibilities for routes there might be, but it sounds like we don't necessarily even know what that is, and in order to do that, maybe it would require some time sitting down as a group with some maps, or if that's something you want staff to come back to you with. Nancy and I were both kind of talking about possibly doing some kind of a design charrette where we would have, maybe a couple of interested community members, all the TAC, Metro, TriMet, Nancy, myself, just yeah. But at the same time, it feels a little odd to me because I'm not sure how many options there really are for bringing that in.
And if there are no options, that'd be great. But one of the things we're hearing now is we're trying to develop the mobile or redevelop the mobile is talk to consultants of developers. They're wanting to know where's the other revenue. That's important to somebody who wants to spend dollars either for residential, which is one of our dreams, or some of the other kinds of things that are happening. And so, it's not something we can do fine, but I thought Nancy said that it could And I think I talked to the mayor about this as well, when, a couple of weeks ago. You know, it could help, that kind of planning could help Metro understand how important we are about the light rail coming and get to that level. So, I mean, we know it isn't going to be here for some number of years, but if we could begin to develop, and honestly, something like light rail, if you don't develop with that in mind, you can't really add it later on. So if all the things that are happening on the north end, to include whatever's going to happen to landfill, could be implicated there. There could be some implications of light rail.
So, do we want to have some concepts in place when we sit down with, this larger community? So, is that something that this group would like to take a stab at and just do a little in TAC work session next month and lay out some maps and try and figure out what we think is an appropriate start, or do we just want to schedule a meeting, and if we do, and invite others? And should we do it at this meeting, or would it be a separate meeting? Or do you just want us to evaluate that and get back to you with a recommendation?
Well, my understanding was that given the development that we've got going downtown, the desire to develop that north end, that the group wanted, and I appreciate your question because I don't know the answer to it. Do we want to sit down with some maps and kind of come up with some of our suggestions? The most important thing I think to the group here is that the Metro and the people involved, that we keep a relationship with them so that they don't forget us, that get kind of thrown in the back corner, so that it is just always not maybe in their face, but at the back of their minds that we're interested and we want to work with and develop in such a way that it enhances the potential for light rail in our city.
We're designated a regional center. Is there some sort of funding from Metro or someplace that would help us with a consultant that would help us do that, right? I would think a regional center for light, this good logical light rail would come there. So that would be one of the things that a regional center would do. So to me, it seems that if there was some way to find Metro or somebody that had some money for some consulting, that our time might be better used if we had somebody that knew how to guide us. I didn't mean that. Didn't mean that to staff at all, but somebody who's
TriMet. No, that doesn't bother me. I've done 0 light rail. So, and I think that's true for the city. I mean, there's nobody here that's necessarily dealt with long-range planning for light rail, and one of the things that
some of these properties we're looking at are developed. Maybe we as a city could designate certain right-of-ways so that nobody builds on them. There's a lot of things that are impacted by it. It isn't just, some developers would like their developments to be next to the light rail, so that's a benefit to them. But on the other hand, we may not want an appropriate right-of-way destroyed by the developer, or put it in such a position with the development that it can't send it on.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's something out there with Metro, something we could either apply for grants, or there's some option for us to get some help in doing that. I think that would be the most productive. That's my opinion.
Well, I wonder with the regionals. A long time ago, I was in meetings with regionals, like Hillsborough and Gresham and Beaverton. And how did they get the light rail in their communities, and were their consultants doing that? Is there a way to check into that?
Look at some of the more recent changes with light rail, and some of the things. Hillsborough out that direction. That's some of the newer stuff. Lake Oswego's trying to get the same kind of activity going. I guess one of Nancy's suggestions was that we talk to our liaison with TriMet and our liaison with Metro, and maybe the next step would be kind of feel them out, figure out what they would recommend, and then bring that back to the meeting next time.
That'd be good. That'd be great.
Because the last 2 summers are next month, because it's June already. And so that would be our last meeting. Typically, for the summer, we usually take July and August off. But the last 2 summers, we've had a project that we worked on during the summer. So.
Be our project, huh? Nice.
I will be upset. Wherever I'm at. Then you can spread me around the street.
Now, I'm going to be tomorrow this, but other than that, I will be here.
Well, that's good because I was trying to coordinate someone to cover the July meeting for me because I won't be here. So there's no July meeting. I'm done, right?
No.
Okay. I think that was kind of all I had for that one.
Okay, and current extension signage, that was something that Nancy Walters is gonna bring some examples of what she's seen, because she was the one that brought this up and was concerned about it. So if no one objects, we're gonna table this until Nancy is with us. And enlighten us.
I agree. I have it in the pictures that were she sent. Yeah, what she was talking about.
But do we really want to just switch to a project to do?
I think we should.
Right, yeah. I think we should wait for her also.
Okay, TSP update. Isn't that kind of related to C above because we can't do anything until the regional plan is done?
But I did get some insight from Nancy on that one too. I think the question was timing because of our discussion around Pearl Street and the roundabout, Division and Taylor and Law and 7th, all those come together there. So, so right now, Nancy's applied for a TMG grant, which is Transportation Growth Management Grant. She's expecting some decision from them in late June. I wrote down 2011. The grant needs to be spent by June 2012, so that's what she's planning to do for funding for that. Right now we don't have funding for a TSP renewal or update. So it sounds like this grant is how she's planning to fund that, and she figures once we get the grant, it's going to take us a few months to actually write the scope of work for what we want to do, and then to select a consultant. So it's planned, but not intended to happen right away. But she also indicated that she's got a 5-year. It's not a budget, but it's a capital improvement plan, and the roundabout is included in that. She was going to email that to me, and it has not. So I will bring that back next time as well.
That'd be good to know where it's at.
I think it's a long list, actually, but
I'm sure it is.
We're ahead of this very pricey.
Yeah.
How pricey?
the roundabout, I haven't seen the number yet, but my sense is because of that location, and I'm not even sure that that's the roundabout is just one.
Where the muffler shops at.
The roundabout was I think just a suggested alternative. It wasn't. I mean, you'd still go through the design analysis to determine that was the right solution. But yeah, slope is going to be a big problem right there. But if we have the school, we've got a little bit of room there too. So that's the best update I can give you for the TSP.
Okay, the 2009 pavement maintenance annual report.
So Kathy included the actual report. It's also on the website. This is our second report that we put together. So it's mostly supposed to be discussing what we did last year and kind of how we're doing. And we did a presentation for the city commission with a PowerPoint presentation. We also, Kathy was very helpful, but we put a lot of effort into trying to get more of an apples to apples comparison, because previously we were comparing square yards with centerline miles, and we didn't make it that easy. And there's still some situations where it's kind of hard to do apples to apples comparisons for unit prices and those kind of things. But I think it's gotten a lot better. I think we'll continue to formulate a report that will be useful for people. I know when I was writing it, or when we were writing it, that was the intent, is to make it something that would be useful for us. And one of the things that I mentioned to the city commission was, when this requirement that we do a report annually came about, it wasn't something that I was looking forward to, because it just meant more work to me at the time. But now, having done a couple of them, clearly it gives us an opportunity to look back at what we did and how those unit prices came about. And sometimes they're kind of hard to formulate, just because of all the various components that go into a project. But again, we're feeling like we've been collecting what we said we were going to collect, and we've spent all of that until probably this year. This year, we probably will take some of the money that we collect and save it for Project Division Street, which is the project that we had hoped to do this year, but quickly learned after looking at that, it's going to require quite a bit more engineering time and possibly right-of-way acquisition time, depending on what we want to do with Division Street. I mean, I think that's probably another question for the TAC is, what should the road section look on Division Street? And is that even, feasible with property acquisition and the budget that we have to spend on that? So we've got pavement maintenance dollars to deal with pavement between the curb to curb, but there's other issues there. There's no bike lanes on Division Street, for instance, and the sidewalks are some places 3 feet wide. So for arterial, it's not our standard, that's for sure. So anyway, the report, I'm hoping, is useful to you. I didn't intend to go through it all. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have tonight or any other night on that, and we would try to answer those. I think the other piece of information that came out of this that we were a little disappointed. We evaluate our pavements every 3 years. We pay a company to come in, a same company we've used for years, to determine the pavement condition index. So they rate every street segment and provide us a pavement condition index for that particular street segment, and then they take the average of all those, the weighted average of all those, and give us an average PCI for our entire system. And the last time they had it, they had a PCI of 68, and this time when they measured it, they reported a PCI of 62. So even though we've adopted a street maintenance utility fee, and even though we've spent really one summer, because the first summer was real short, our pavement condition index went down, and I would have kind of expected that, because we
didn't collect all the money
that first year.
Right.
We phased in over 5 years.
So really
We expected that we weren't going to be able to comply because we didn't get the money we recommended.
right. When what Don's saying is the committee that suggested we go with a street utility fee recognized that the pavement management system was suggesting we get something like 1.5 million a year, starting 2 years ago, year one. And we took that before the city commission, and I can't remember if the committee, I think the committee actually recommended that we ramp that up too. But feedback, right?
I think that was because we felt the way it was done. I don't think that was really in our hearts what we wanted. The feedback we were getting initially was that there was some political concern about hitting the city with it, right up front with all of it.
If you
sacrifice being able to do what needs to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I really appreciate the work that you put into the report. I think it's really good for us to see and for our community to see. I think it's very good.
Yeah, I don't know of other communities that are doing it.
Did you show this to the commission this year already? What kind of reaction did you get?
Same positive reaction. They were, I think they were ready to tell us they'd heard enough and they were ready for the next agenda item. But I understand that. I mean, I was happy that we were given the opportunity to. That's the other thing, is it gives us an opportunity to talk about something that they've not necessarily, brought or asked to be brought before them before. So now they kind of have to. They've asked for a report. Now we have to give it to them. And so anyway, that's.
Well, I think it's very well done, and I really appreciate the report that you've done.
Thank you. The only other thing that we should mention about that, if there aren't other questions, is we have pavement management program. Are those two different? Right. So I kind of intermix those. And the next item is the pavement management program budget options report, and that was draft at the time we met with the city commission, so we didn't give them a copy of that. But this is what Capital Asset and Pavement Management Services does. They come into town and they look at every street. And this is the report, and it talks about some of the different budget scenarios that we could look at, and why what we're spending on street dollars is not as adequate as it should be. So and I guess the other thing is their report's pretty consistent with what they've given us in the past too. So you can kind of compare. Every 3 years we'll get the same kind of report. So the only other thing I'll mention about pavement management is this year we have there's several maps in the first report, and it talked about what we've accomplished, but there's also a 2010 Exhibit C, and it just is showing you what we're planning to do in 2010. And there's a fair amount of the Floresville work that we've been doing over the last few years. And actually, that was one of the recommendations that the Capital Asset and Pavement Services came up with, was that we should be doing a lot more of that. We have a lot of streets that are ready for slurry seals, so they're suggesting we spend even more money on slurry seals. But that's a balancing act, because people don't necessarily subscribe to that line of thinking if they're not pavement experts. They just know that there's a pothole or a bad-looking street on Division or that kind of thing. So we do try to balance that. And this year the balance is going to be with two roads that have generated the most comments for us, and we recognize that we could do something with those, and that's Leland Road between Warner Milne and Claremont, and then Myers Road between Claremont and Frontier Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two narrow roads, and the condition of the pavement is pretty poor. So we would like to do a little bit of widening where it makes sense.
That'd be nice.
A little bit of reconstruct. We're mainly just going to overlay that though, and try to get maybe a 15-year life out of it, something like that. We cored it the other day, and we found most of that pavement's 2.5, 3 inches maybe thick, and it's been carrying a lot of traffic and a lot of truck traffic for years. So if we could get a good topping over it, it's not exactly what we'd like to put in for a new street section, but we want to get something on there to cap it again, keep it dry, and maybe do some stormwater improvements along there too.
Does Leland County still? County Road? Sorry.
Yeah, Leland changes to County Road out. I think it's just before it turns, where McCord.
Oh yeah.
And then it turns and kind of heads out towards what feels like county out there.
Mm-hmm. And then I see you have on your table 5, 2010 work, street work, Malala Avenue, Dewey Street to Mountain View Street.
Dewey Street to Mountain View Street.
Is that, what are you going to do with that, I guess? It looks pretty good.
Well, we have some of the new pavement isn't holding up very well.
Oh, I see.
So we're thinking we can cap that at least to get. It doesn't feel very good to have to go in there and mill and pave out areas along Malala Avenue because it's not that old.
Right.
So we were just planning to work with the county to do what we're calling a chip seal. It's the same thing that we did on Myers Road out near Hagen.
Oh, I see.
Cap it and kind of hold it together a little bit. That would give us a couple more years before we have to move back in there.
Okay. I was kind of wondering because it looked like a new.
It's it's surprising we got a couple of problems there that we think was bad product when it was put down, but it's held for quite a while, but it's failed now. I think Scott probably has come across that from time to time if a mix design is not quite right, or a load is not got enough asphalt in it, or something like that.
Okay.
You know, when all the sidewalks were doing, wasn't a part of all that the county was going to do something to local and the city was going to focus on? We're going to put a layer on top of both of them.
I sure would have liked that. We advocated for that, but I don't think that's what we got. And I was on Holcomb today actually because I was up at the grade school, and there's going to be some problems there. I think reliability. We've taken over Holcomb; it's now ours. Mm-hmm. But you can tell where that edge that was left kind of cut, and I can tell that's deteriorating pretty quick. We're going to be back in there doing some patchwork pretty soon. Yeah, I think that's all I have for those items.
So then we're down to Washington and 12th Street intersection.
So this is an information item that we had done we'd asked DKS to do an analysis of the intersection. Betty, I think you were familiar with this one. I don't know if everybody was, but we got several complaints about both the curb extensions and just the high speeds and several traffic accidents that have happened at that intersection. Some have suggested maybe we need a signal there. Definitely many have suggested the speeds need to be lowered through there, and some were advocating for removing the curb extensions. So, and then I guess it was timely because we just finished the 12th Street connection to 99E. So, we started this effort and we kind of got delayed because the water line projects were working in Washington. They were building water line pipe in Washington Street. So we stalled a little bit. We wanted to get our traffic counts when the reality of the routine traffic was there. So DKS completed that study. They did do a fair amount of work in establishing accident history, speed and traffic counts, and they provided some conclusions in this memorandum, which is in your packet. And it boils down to both north and southbound traffic exceeds the 85th percentile speed on that section of Washington Street. So there is a speeding problem. I think northbound it was at 33 miles an hour, and southbound it was at 31 miles an hour, and it's posted 25. So we've since passed that information on to the police. I just got to thank you. I didn't necessarily get a commitment that they were going to do anything about it, but we did get a thank you from them. The other issue was there was a site distance concerns. So if you're looking at the first page of the memorandum, you see the chamber building. There's there's actually 3 planter boxes, 2 that are kind of closer to the European Chiropractic Clinic that needed I'm trying to remember the name of the plant. Oregon grape were growing pretty tall, so that was creating some site distance problems. There's also a tree on the other corner that needed some limbing up, and so we've removed the Oregon grape and we've limbed up the tree. We're probably going to do some infill in those sidewalks with concrete rather than landscaping so that doesn't happen again. So that will help, we believe. And the other thing that was interesting was that the traffic coming up 12th hasn't necessarily increased from when they studied this. They did some work in this area when they, VCAS was also the engineer that looked at Washington Street when they did the 2 blocks between 12th and 14th. So they had good counts for 12th Street then and updated that. And even though the connection between 99E has now occurred on 12th Street, they've yet to see those numbers increase.
It's amazing.
That may change.
Yes.
But
Well, and I know just last Friday, there was a 3-car pileup at that intersection where young teenagers were driving up 12th and they didn't stop. They thought it was going to be a 4-way stop because it's the flashing red. And they ended up hitting people on Washington. So the young lady was cited apparently for running a light.
and I talked to Amber at the chamber, and she said that she was wondering if we couldn't move that. I don't know what the sign says. I've got to get back there, but the cross traffic does not stop. Move it up to as a rider under the stop sign. So I haven't asked that be done, but I think we can do that. So that's probably going to be the one minor change that we do there, in addition to what we've already done. I've heard that. Maybe it's the vehicles that I drive. I don't think 12th and Washington's going to go away, but I think this study gets us a few years of, do nothing, but do less than construction there.
Thank you.
We didn't. I don't know that we need any decision from the TAC. I just wanted to provide it as information because it was kind of hanging out there and something I hadn't provided.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, transportation construction projects.
Going to share that one, or how are we going to do that one? I know some things, but not everything. Kathy got. Yeah, that's a low spot in the road.
Yeah.
And there's a failed culvert there. I know that one.
Unexpected.
I was going to say that was unexpected, I think.
Yeah, and so they're replacing that culvert. They continue to have the same wall installation and improvements at Warren Avenue Wall Avenue intersection. They still have to put the rain garden in, like adjacent to Walgreens. And then the paving it. So hopefully that'll all be done by tomorrow. Definitely.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Parker is a paving rock company. They own the Canby Sand and Gravel, or what used to be Canby Sand and Gravel. And they have good capabilities. We've used them on other projects, but this project they subbed out all the utility work, and we struggled with. My guys are just pulling their hair out because they're like tonight they're working on the final water line tie-in. And that was supposed to happen this morning, and it didn't get put together until about 5 o'clock this afternoon, and now they're trying to do a tie-in. those things, you know, you gotta deliver notices, you gotta have your ducks in a row, they're large diameter pipe changes, and so, it's been, I think, challenging project. I think the contractor's frustrated too, because we found a lot of, you know, unknowns. It was one of those projects that, if you remember, we got, wasn't, I don't know if it was port funding, but we got it was just, yeah, it was some of the federal funding, stimulus funding. It came out, and you know, they wanted it shovel ready in a certain number of days. And when those, you know, you either pay on the front end in the design effort, or you pay on the back end in the change orders. And we're paying on the back end on the change orders for this one, and it's costing time. And so I don't think Nancy or anybody else is real excited about the way that's going. But my sense is we saved a bunch of money on the front end with the design effort. If that counts for anything. Yeah. Well. So the best I know about that one is we still are waiting on private utility. I saw them out there today when I was driving down Holcomb. Yeah, and today it was it Quest or Comcast?
Well, Quest had a number of trucks there today.
Yeah.
There's a utility contractor that I think is Comcast, although I'm not positive, that's been out there a lot. I mean, if we put telecommunications across this country as fast as they're doing that corner, my neighbor had called Comcast because, well, Nick and I were the one that instigated those sidewalks through the middle, so he was kind of getting frustrated. Well, Comcast said it was going to be 6 weeks, so when we saw PG&E come and start moving wires, we thought, man, this is getting done. But they cut the top of that old pole off and took care of all this stuff, and it's been the telecommunications, either Comcast or Quest, or maybe both, and it's been literally weeks. Right.
Their wires. Now we're waiting for Quest to relocate their wires, and it comes to do that by June 15th. I mean,
That's crazy.
yeah, and I think the Quest was putting it on though. Then the other pole has to be removed, and the contractor needs about 2 weeks to finish the work, so we're now talking about, doing a contract extension, with the contractor, to extend their expiration date to July 31st.
The sad thing in this situation, I mean, it's sad that it's not done. Because people, sometimes there's a break in the sidewalks for those folks that live in the June Manor.
Right.
They're the main users who, for the safety, we really want to do that. But the other sad part is the city's going to get a bad rap for this. And it's not the city's fault from my perspective. It's too bad there isn't a better way to communicate blindly. Because, I mean, the city and even the contractor, who's the main contractor, have done all that they could do, I think, in a fairly timely manner. I just don't understand how it can take this long. Maybe if I had to do it, it would take less.
The good news is it goes PGE and then Quest and then Comcast, and you know, my sense is based on what I saw up there, it's not overly complicated, so maybe we'll get, once Quest gets out of the way, Comcast can come in and do what they're doing. PGE, but PGE's, you know, I mean, we've got a really good liaison between the crew and the city. Did they not have to move that thing twice? I mean, was there not some design flaw there? I mean, I can't remember, but I think there was something where PG did something and they kind of moved it, and then
Yeah. Because it has previously approved development. And that's what has created all the problems with having to move. Because now, instead of the road coming the way it used to come, it's going to actually be wider at that point. Because there's a developer that had a development in that corner there. I don't know how that was all arranged, but according, I guess, planning had already approved a certain section of sidewalk and curb. So that's what we're trying to accomplish.
one that's a little bit And we can blame that one a little bit on the county, because they were the designers of that project, so.
Downtown sidewalk, I've already had a report on that.
Okay, do we have any updates on the jet cable?
Tell them what I know.
Lisa gave me an update, and she is pretty much, I mean, she does a lot on everything, but she's kind of getting to just do the job. So, like, that's it. And, she said that they're trying to complete December 2010. So right away acquisitions being completed. We have to do a joint permit application for state lands, DSL, and Army Corps of Engineers to do a wetlands impact and endangered species permit. Fulton, which is OPEC. They're going to do an overall roadway signal, underground utilities, and striping design. Also involved is a natural resources overlay district, with a flood management overlay, and it's going to require a type 3 land use application. So this has to go to the community development department. The application's in the process. So it has to go before probably either staff or planning commission for their review, and then they're going to have a public outreach campaign kickoff meeting. And what makes this, it's great that we have a couple of different funding sources for this. We have $22 million from the federal government, and we have some funding from the state for ODOT. But that's all wonderful. But that makes it so that there has to be a lot of project oversight and
A lot of hoops to jump through.
it's going to be a full-time job for Lisa, even though you have a consultant to manage all of the pieces of this project.
Now, that was like last meeting, there was an issue they were trying to resolve about whether the road could narrow over the bridge.
It can't, I don't think.
No, they're trying to get a design exception for
Well,
that.
exactly, because we didn't
Because
want
of the
to,
area going over the.
they didn't want to have to enlarge the bridge, there wasn't enough money in the
Yeah.
budget for that.
She talked about, as part of the project, they're hoping to do a little bit of the Rutland Road interchange. It's all being designed at the same time, but for the construction, they want to do a piece of the Rutland Road work, because they think that there's going to be enough funding. And, they really hope to do, a right turn lane if you're going southbound, a right turn lane onto Rutland Road, but, according to the state, that was not the highest priority. The highest priority, safety priority was extending the turn lane onto 13 if you're going north, and you want to turn onto Redland Road. So that turn lane needs to be extended, which then means that the roadway needs to be widened, and so that's probably going to take all the money, the construction money we have, doing the jug handle and doing one piece of the Redland Road intersection. That's what I've been getting out of meetings, because we've been having all kinds of 2 or 3 twice or thrice weekly meetings just regarding tracking stuff.
Okay, and 10th Street and Center Hill Road, Railroad crossing improvements.
This is a project John started back in
Probably old.
2009, probably 2008.
Yeah.
And anyway, finally, it evolved from one kind of project to another kind of project. And we actually have had the contract documents out. They're right here. Bids were open May 6th. We received 3 bids from electrical contractors. the low bid was received by Tice Electric. It was just under $42,000. Basically, what they're going to be doing is putting in, they're gonna have to work with the Union Pacific Railroad, and they're going to be installing a flashing light standard with "Do Not Stop on Tracks" sign with a loop detector. There's a sign there already, but there's actually going to be a loop detector, which, when a train's coming, I think it's going to set off the lights, you know, advising people, train's coming, get off the tracks. So, definitely, this is what we're doing, and so that we're waiting for the contract to decide which of the contract documents, and they have 45 days to finish the work after they're given this closing.
And there's also the issue that Union Pacific had. Wasn't Union Pacific complaining about the cars that stopped on the track?
That's the whole reason was
That resolves all that.
the best of their ability. I mean, they wanted property from Dutch Brothers so that they could have a little
Yes.
escape ramp, and they couldn't get that, and you know, he suggested Dutch Brothers. Sometimes,
Not
sometimes.
coming down the hill, I mean.
Yeah, there is, because
Yeah.
you get people,
Yeah, but
back
when
on the street.
Dutch Brothers isn't even busy, people back up across that railroad track. I mean, if they're busy, there can be some backup, but just on a time when they're not busy anymore, people stop on the railroad track.
That's true. The four-way stop backs up, depending on the level of traffic on 99E, will back up to Senior Hill. But there's other times when Dutch Brothers are the contributors to the problem. I know nothing about that one.
No, I wanted to mention this because, this was being designed in conjunction with the Malala Warner Milne project. The same, consultant doing the design of both intersections. Basically, the major portion of the work is adding a lane on the west leg. It's going to be a dedicated right turn lane. So if you're going west on Beaver Creek Road to Malala Avenue, we're going to be putting in a dedicated right turn lane right now. There's two lanes. The left lane goes straight, the right lane you can go straight or right. We're gonna add a third lane. Well, that requires right of way, acquisition of right of way and easements, and from Marquee Care Facility. Care facility right there. And anyway, we had our consultant negotiating with them and come to an agreement on acquisition costs. That goes to the city commission tomorrow, and if they approve it, we will have the necessary language. So we'll be almost done with the design. There's no other plans.
So they do have that design right.
I'll be very hospitals everybody.
There you go.
Well, that's why I think we've had it better.
Yep.
Future agenda items.
It's not an item, but I have a question.
I do have.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow there's a celebration fund. A long project, it's funny, actually three projects total, but the one that we were all, I was representing you all on the committee for the enhancement project. And then there's the John Storm part, and then there's the Carroll, it's all gonna be dedicated to Washington and
Yay. Great.
A few golden shovels if you'd like to.
Don will be there representing us. He can have a golden shovel for soup. That's great. So my question is, I have seen semi trucks coming up Washington, and they'll turn right on 14th, and they'll hit those light poles along 14th, and it's broken the base. Is that something that code enforcement should know, or is that something?
I saw, well, it's more than the light pole, it's a signal pole that they've been hitting right on the corner.
That black, oh, I thought it was light pole.
And the, well, first they hit the ped, we had a ped button that was a standalone ped button, so they, over the years, they've hit that several times. We finally moved that behind the signal pole.
Yes.
And now, then the signal pole had the decorative base on it, and they've hit that a couple of times, and the last time they hit it hard enough to break the casting, so we ordered a new casting, but at the same time we did this Washington and 12th Street study. We had that same consultant take a look because they were involved in the design of the 14th Street intersection as well. And they recommended a couple of things. One was to not put the decorative base back on the signal pole, so it's not on there right now. And they also recommended that we take out about enough of that center island. So if you look at 14th Street in front of the
Spices.
There's a divider median, a low profile divider median there to prevent vehicles from driving out of their driveway and making a left out of their driveway, or vehicles driving off 14th and turning in.
Yes.
So, so that median got extended across their driveway all the way to the crosswalk on Washington Street. And so in looking at this, they suggest, well, you could probably take out maybe 15 feet of that. That might help a truck driver who might be less likely to encroach on that divider median to, get out there a little further. I mean, that happens, it's not preferred, but that happens in most intersections anyway with a big truck. Or most older intersections,
Right.
I'd say, that aren't designed to today's standards.
You have pictures of Ron doing that, because he said he had trouble making it.
Yeah, troublemaker. Not there.
Why is it?
Well, anyway, we've done that, but I saw an email that I haven't completely read that left me with the impression that it's been hit again.
Yeah.
And this time, not only the base, the base isn't there anymore. So now what's damaged is the signal pole, and those are structural facilities that require an insurance certificate that they're adequate to handle the mast arm that's mounted to them and any signs that we put on those. And as I heard, it was a significant dented pole, so it seems to me like we're going to have to call the manufacturer in to take a look at that, figure out what that means, and let's hope for the best. Let's hope for the best.
A camera would be good.
To encourage people to report the vehicle, the company the vehicle belongs to, any identifying marks on it. Because it sounds like every time we do something to move back and allow more space, the next thing is just being hit.
Right.
At some point, somebody's going to take responsibility to do it.
Well, I didn't get the license plate number, but I did see it.
Did you actually see it? Did it?
I did.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did. I didn't chase them down. I was on the other side of the street. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, we got the test recently because when they slide this bridge into place that they're talking, the drug handle project. The drug handle project is they're going to build a bridge next to where it's going to go. Then they're going to demo the old bridge and move it into place.
Yeah.
or not, there's not a bridge there now, they're gonna demo the roadway there. So anyway, when they do that, they have to close 213 for 4 days, 3 or 4 days. And, so while ODOT is, and what I understand is they're putting out a big, campaign to keep, freight off 213 that day, they're still anticipating that there's some that's gonna come through, and that's the detour.
You can take vacation, but you'll just come back to it.
I think Alita volunteered to watch that one.
Well, I just didn't know who to report it to.
Well, you could, if you just,
You didn't see who the truck was, though.
I saw the truck, but I didn't get a license. I thought, sorry. Listen, I'll chase him down. But we did, there's a lot of big trucks that go down and around there. I don't know what they're doing, but they do.
Okay, future agenda items. I'm just trying to keep on the list, but you shouldn't have.
makes sense if next meeting is your last meeting that it went. Light rail topic would probably take some time.
Anybody have any questions? Because Nancy is
15th and Washington.
Coming from, street, going east, turn right, go straight ahead or turn right next to the, up, there's no 2 lanes, but people come there and turn right. There's a double lane there, it's parking there. People stop there, parks their cars and not into the street, but it's still not into the street. They're supposed to be people from squeezing through there. They want to go right, straight ahead and left.
So if there's,
The street's got no parking, but that side does, you have to have parking on the side.
but if there's nobody parked there, then people will,
Even if there's people parked there,
Oh,
people
that's
parked there, you sit there, want to go straight ahead, or just want to do what it says, and I think it's only single lane road.
Washington. 15th and Washington. Right by, Middle Post Office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Downhill, so.
Right. Yeah.
If Nancy is here, we'll hear about, discuss the herb foliage.
Oh, yes.
As far as Pearl Street, some of these other projects, unless there's a change, which we can just simply say no change. Those are the other schedule.
I know.
So we're gonna have one street in downtown closed on Wednesday afternoons. Planning Commission approved that a week ago yesterday. 8th Street will be closed for farmers market.
Is all that?
So, there's that creates some, there's probably gonna be some high blood pressure for some people, because obviously we're gonna lose some parking spots on Wednesday afternoon. But we're gonna get through it. It's gonna be a good thing. We'll look forward to it.
We hope it's not. Anything else? Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.